last week on Legally Kidnapped.
Good evening. A U.S. Congressman from Michigan is asking U.S. Attorney General Eric Holder and the Justice Department to investigate the illegal snatching of children by Michigan CPS agents who rubber-stamped judges' signatures on child removal orders. The state of Maine is getting set to change the rules on the use of dangerous physical restraints in schools. The Maine child protective industry is keeping quiet while they try to cover their tracks regarding what they knew about prior abuse complaints regarding a guy who was facing murder charges after grabbing his baby by the head and throwing him into a chair. And due to that case, Maine's Governor Paul LePage jumps on the child abuse bandwagon, saying that CPS agents in Maine's National Model Child Welfare System are moving too slow to protect kids from abuse and neglect and should be quicker to remove them from their homes. In Arizona, Governor Jan Brewer signs a bill that opens a new CPS investigation office that would focus on cases that involve criminal conduct, which will give CPS agents the power to investigate criminal child abuse cases and report it to the police. Children's advocates from New York are calling for alternatives to the arrest of students in public schools in the Bronx. And the New York legislature considers a new law that would equate the beating of a CPS agent with assault on a police officer. In a national report on how well the states protect the legal rights of abused and neglected children, Florida flunks with flying colors. And now Florida's child protective industry is going to start using a report card system to see if foster kids are in a stable enough environment to succeed in school and life. In Nebraska, the head of the child protective industry is hoping that the state is ready to look forward while the child welfare system goes through reform after reform after reform. In Washington, CPS agents will now be trained in the universities instead of the Department of Social and Health Services training sessions. A report is criticizing Oklahoma's laws on releasing child abuse information to the public, and federal monitors are refusing to approve the Oklahoma child protective industry's plan to reform the state's child welfare system after settling a class action lawsuit with a children's advocacy group, Children's Rights. In California this week, the Los Angeles foster care system is still leaving kids unprepared for adulthood as they throw them out of the system at the ripe old age of 18. In Nevada, foster kids can now sue for their poor treatment while in the state's foster care system. In Idaho, the state Supreme Court turns over 2 lower court decisions and reunites a family who was torn apart by deportation. And thousands of kids in the USA will be spending Mother's Day separated from their moms who have been deported. President Obama comes out of the closet on the gay marriage issue after his 2 young daughters talked him into it, and Bristol Palin is criticizing the move, saying that she thinks that they are wrong. A new report says that the United States foster care system should offer more therapy and less medication. A new study by the University of Utah says that children often remain at risk of abuse and neglect long after an investigation by CPS agents is closed. And the president of Utah's Adoption Council quits amidst allegations that he ignores unethical practices of some adoption agencies and has failed to treat birth fathers fairly. In Pakistan this week, the child protective industry picks up 9 kids begging on the street and turns them back over to their parents, making them promise not to make them beg anymore. A foster father from Borno is charged with murdering his foster child. In South Korea, customs officials discover thousands of stamina pills being smuggled in from China containing dried and powdered human baby flesh. In India, a couple sells their newborn baby just to pay off the hospital bill. And a Buddhist monk who was convicted of child sexual abuse in the UK is found to be running an orphanage in Sri Lanka. In Canada, a disabled couple is thrilled that the child protective industry has decided to let them keep their baby. In Ontario, an inquest blames police for a boy's death while being physically restrained, but rules it an accident. A Brighton man claims he's being hounded by CPS agents after being acquitted of child sex charges. And a real mother and her son reunite for the first time in 40 years after she was forced to give him up for adoption. In England this week, the foster care system is on the brink of collapse as the number of children in its care soars, and the children in the British foster care system are still vulnerable to widespread abuse. In a speech, the Queen outlines reforms to the family court system, announcing that fathers will now be given more rights to the kids after divorce. And a British school principal threatens to rat out the parents of underage children who are on Facebook to the child protective industry. In entertainment news this week, as they battle it out over custody of their kid, Usher's ex-wife admits to saying, quote, "I'll fuck you up," end quote, but denies threatening to kill him. The little Ukrainian orphan who Elton John tried to adopt is still living in deplorable conditions back in his homeland. And the Octomom shares her thoughts on the poor parenting skills of the tanning mom and suggests that she take some parenting classes. In Connecticut, a woman is charged with calling in a bomb threat to the Hartford headquarters of the Department of Children and Families. In Florida, a school teacher was was charged with putting dog collars on her students for minor infractions like drinking soda in class. In St. Louis, Missouri, a teacher is arrested for sexually assaulting a foster child. And in Ohio, a foster parent is found guilty of rape and sexual assault. In Iowa, a CPS agent is refusing to testify in a child sex abuse case after a judge refuses to order her to do so. An employee of a Texas daycare is arrested for falsely accusing a mother of drinking instead of picking her kid up when in fact she was working. In California, a hit-and-run driver slams his car into a foster mother and her foster child. And a real mother from California is blaming her son's foster mother for his near drowning in a pool on April 28th. A principal from a school in Missouri resigns from her position after setting up a fake Facebook account to spy on students in the school. The Michigan mother who held back CPS agents after refusing to drug her daughter and won is now filing a lawsuit against the child protective industry for taking her daughter's prosthetic leg away from her to stop her from trying to get back to her mother. A Michigan grandmother of a dead toddler says that CPS agents should have intervened. And the children of a father who was deported to Guatemala are now being featured on the state of Michigan's adoption website. In Ohio, an obese child who was snatched by CPS agents for being too fat is returned to his mother and the case is closed. In Tennessee, the Department of Children's Services is being criticized after 2 juveniles escaped from their custody in 2 days. And in Utah, a real mother has her son stolen by CPS agents despite being declared innocent by a court in social services. In Texas this week, an attorney says that the parents of a child who drowned then ran off with the other child who was snatched by CPS agents has broken no laws. The Texas children's shelter that opened only a year ago now has no license and has been evicted from the property. And finally, tonight in Nebraska, police tracked down a thief who stole more than $1,200 worth of diapers and wipes from a foster care agency. For these stories and all the latest dirt on the child protective industry, visit www.legallykidnapped.com. And until next week, this is Baby LK, over and out.